Hi, my name is Marsha Michaelis, and I work with Discovery Institute's Fix Homelessness initiative here in Washington State. And every year in Washington, there are a couple of bills moving through the legislature that get all kinds of attention. They absorb lots of resources and time as people work to pass or defeat them. But at the same time, hundreds of bills are passing into law that most people don't even know about, and they affect your life and mine. One of the bills moving through the legislature right now is House Bill 2266. And the goal of this bill is to make it easier to develop public housing projects in any community in the state. The bill would actually override local ordinances and zoning and force cities and counties to allow public housing projects and emergency shelters in any residential zone. Those who support this bill are doing so because they want to do something about homelessness in Washington state. And we have a serious crisis here. More than 20,000 people are living on the streets in our state, many of them, most of them, suffering from untreated mental illness and addiction. It is good to want to help them. Wanting to help people is good. Wanting to make sure that no one is free to disagree with your particular idea about how to help people, that's bad. And that's at the heart of this bill. Listen to some of these quick statements.
There are some cities that have just put up many barriers, whether it's zoning barriers or operating agreement barriers, that make it infeasible for one of these developers to come in and try to build this type of housing.
Cities may at times prohibit permanent supportive housing or may require additional permits, licenses, agreements, or other documentation or legislative approval for projects to the point where they're made infeasible.
In recent years, we've seen a pattern of codified local barriers that make expanding capacity harder and more expensive. This is not fair or right, and we just simply want to provide housing in the way that is fair to our residents.
It is unfair for some jurisdictions to be able to completely opt themselves out of being a provider.
Now, it might sound nice to advocate that everyone do their fair share and that we give everyone a house who needs one, but it's not that simple. Let me show you some of the public housing projects that are managed and owned by the folks who just gave those testimonies.
We understand that we need to do a lot more to educate folks.
Plymouth housing leaders continue to say the answer to solving the region's homeless crisis is to simply build out more affordable housing
That are legal and funded.
But lately, cities like Kenmore have rejected this idea and are catching on to the nonprofit's low barrier model.
The drug problem in Plymouth housing is rampant,
which in many cases allow drug addicts and mentally ill residents to move in without any requirements for treatment.
Sadly,
But Plymouth leaders insist this is fear-mongering and the concerns are overblown.
we can't let fear and bureaucracy deny proven solutions.
So I spend time looking at what's really happening inside some of their facilities in downtown Seattle, like the Lewiston Scargo in Belltown.
trying to find Mike Matzik. Mike!
We Heart Seattle's Andrea Suarez and I followed Mike Matzik for several months.
You smelled the fentanyl right when we got out of that.
Andrea, what is that?
Well, I would say that is probably somebody that went through withdrawal and crapped right here in the hallway.
Matzik reached out to Suarez for help, saying the conditions inside the building were becoming unbearable.
You got rats in here?
Yeah, right. Underneath there, crawled underneath. There's a whole bunch of them under there.
He's been forced to move rooms several times and says he's feeling hopeless.
Okay, so you can't even lock the door when you leave?
No, I can't.
Why don't you go to management and ask for a new key?
They don't have a key for that box right there.
Oh my gosh.
Is anybody ever using this phone since the 80s?
Matzik recently invited us over as he smoked fentanyl with his friends.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Mike, who's in your room?
Drug use inside the rooms are a regular occurrence.
And this unit is a trap house. This is a garbage can full of foil, drugs, revolving door.
So does the staff here at Plymouth Housing, do they let you guys do drugs in here?
They don't say no, but they don't,
This is a harm reduction place.
This is harm reduction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they provide, the paraphernalia, like the pipes and
They give you the pipes downstairs?
needles or whatever, yeah.
I mean, the staff knows you guys are doing drugs in your room, right?
all right.
But nobody's intervening on your behalf, making you guys go to treatment.
No.
Suarez says what's happening at the Lewiston-Scargo is an absolute failure of the housing first model, which essentially warehouses homeless drug addicts, no strings attached.
You don't have to be clean. You don't have to be enrolled into a program. Yeah, there's no accountability, discipline, or structure at all.
In many cases, they're not getting better, and at times, overdosing and dying in their rooms.
I thought you had a case manager that was going to get you transferred out of here.
I also spoke to other residents here who say case managers and staff quit so often, it feels like no one is around to help them find jobs or take that next step out of this situation.
Each person I've had pretty much they don't exist. I mean, they've been here for I've met them two times and then they told to quit or whatever.
Yeah.
I reached out to Plymouth Housing about these concerns and allegations, but so far no response.
The conditions in this place are almost worse than on the streets.
Yeah.
I didn't have cockroaches and rats in my tent, you know what I mean?
Meanwhile, Suarez is trying to help.
If you want off of that, I will help you. We'll take you to a detox and we'll take you to a 6-month place, a recovery, so you don't have to smoke that anymore.
She invites residents like Matzik out into the neighborhood and pays them to pick up the trash, giving them a sense of purpose and belonging.
Is that something you would consider, Kelly?
Yeah.
A community Matzik and others say is missing behind these closed doors.
You can see they didn't say get out of here. They didn't say don't look at my drugs in my hand. They didn't hide the foil. They're telling their story because it's a cry for help. It's a cry for help. It's crying out loud for help.
The city, the county, the state keeps funding these types of situations. How come?
Because they refuse to change their minds. They refuse to acknowledge that it's not working.
Now, in addition to that Plymouth Housing Development and the Porch Light Shelter, there are shelters in Spokane that are owned and managed by Catholic Charities. I have here a lawsuit that is actually working its way through the courts, filed by a business owner in Spokane, detailing the many hundreds of 911 calls that are generated from these downtown facilities that have surrounded her business and made it difficult for her to exist there and to succeed at what she does. Here in Colville, in Northeast Washington, where I live, we also have a new permanent housing development managed by Catholic Charities. It's a 70-unit facility, and I did a public records request to get a list of all of the 911 calls that are coming out of this facility. In just a 6-month period, there were 104 911 calls generated from this address. Let me just read you some of the types of calls, and there are multiples of each of these. Disturbance, theft, harassment, suicide referral, assault, abandoned vehicle, suspicious vehicle, citizen disputes, kidnapping, vehicle prowling, repossession, man down, sex crimes, welfare check, threats, suspicious activity, pages of these calls being generated from that facility. Why are these places such a mess? Well, it's because of the philosophy that governs how they are being managed. And that philosophy is generally called housing first. And there are two main ideas. One is that government subsidized housing is the solution for homelessness. And the second idea is that all housing for the homeless should be provided immediately, permanently, with no time limits and no conditions like sobriety, drug treatment, case management. Any organization that accepts public dollars to manage and run these facilities has to abide by those ideas. And the results are very predictable. Too many of these facilities turn into violent, crime-filled drug dens where addicted and ensnared people are expected to opt in to the very hard work of personal transformation. A lot of them die instead. Meanwhile, predators are drawn to these facilities, drug dealers, inside and out, who prey upon the weak there. And every citizen who lives near these facilities, these permissive facilities also suffers from all of the crime and disorder and danger that they bring. House Bill 2266 has already passed the State House straight down party lines. For some reason, Democrat lawmakers want us to keep pretending that government-subsidized permanent housing will end homelessness. Yet the approach has already failed badly. It has defined our nation's approach to homelessness and our state's approach to homelessness for the last 10 years. And during that time, the crisis has measurably and visibly worsened. Any approach that ignores reality will fail. Here's the truth. Untreated mental illness and addiction are at the root of almost all street-level homelessness. Help for our communities and help for those people on the streets means requiring treatment toward recovery with the goal of restoring dignity and personal independence. And help means accountability. Not only are Democrat lawmakers defending failed policies, but they're also risking the loss of many millions of dollars in funding to Washington state as the federal government moves and shifts toward a treatment-based approach to homelessness. Is it possible there are other motivations at work here? Now, I would never claim to speak for any person's heart, but here's what I can tell you. There is a lot of money to be made in the homeless housing industry. I mentioned Plymouth Housing earlier and Porchlight Campus. The top 8 employees at the nonprofit Plymouth Housing took home a combined $2.3 million in salary and benefits last year. The CEO of Porchlight Shelter takes home a salary and benefits package of more than $200,000. The CEO of Eastern Washington Catholic Charities, in 2023, he took home 2 separate full-time salaries from 2 affiliated nonprofits, each worth about $300,000. All of these organizations combined own many millions of dollars worth of real estate, all generously subsidized by taxpayer dollars, all helped along by bills like House Bill 2266, which would allow them to expand their businesses more easily over the objections of the people who will have to live with the results. I'd like to suggest that you take just a couple of minutes to call your legislators today and tell them what you think of House Bill 2266. The bill is currently moving through the state Senate. It's likely to pass if nobody does something, if nobody notices, if nobody speaks up. You can visit the state legislative website at leg.wa.gov, look up the bill 2266, and there will be options there for registering your opinion, for getting the contact information for your state senators to let them know that you are looking into these issues, that you care about what happens to your community. Ask them instead to craft legislation that confronts the medical and behavioral realities of untreated mental illness and addiction. Ask them to craft legislation that protects our communities and gets serious about helping people get their lives back. Thank you, and visit fixhomelessness.org to find all the other work that Discovery Institute is doing on this issue.